Hello, everybody. Carlos Toro here of Fightful MMA.com, FightfulBoxing.com. It's time for the Fightful Boxing Podcast, or I guess you could call this a Fightful mini cast, however you want to call it. Here to recap this weekend's big boxing results, and really there has been a lot. There is a way too much to sort of cover in like 5-6 minutes. So we're going to talk plenty about all the big fights that's taken place this past weekend, from the Zone card to the incredible fight in Japan between Kosei Tanaka and Ryoichi Taguchi, even the Michael Conlan fight that just finished about an hour ago on ESPN Plus. But listen, we all know what the big fight for this weekend was, even though there has been a lot of great fights this weekend. The one that grabbed everyone's attention, the whole world's attention, Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia for the IBF welterweight title. Jerry World, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, on Fox pay-per-view. Listen, this fight was the big, I guess, attention grabber for Fox in this first quarter when it comes to these made to the PBC on Fox deal. This is it. This was a fight that had been building since July last year. We thought we were going to get something special between Mikey Garcia, the WBC lightweight champion, moving up to welterweight to challenge the young undefeated star in Errol Spence Jr. We thought we could get a potential dream match. Well, instead of that, we got a one-sided beatdown that kind of proved the old saying, a good big guy will always beat a good little guy. Errol Spence Jr. just completely thrashed Mikey Garcia for 12 rounds, wins by unanimous decision. No question about it. 121.08, 121.08, and 121.07 were the official scorecards at Arlington, at AT&T Stadium. This was kind of a letdown, to be perfectly honest with you. But before we really get into the nitty-gritty about this fight and the rest of that pay-per-view, why don't you go on and subscribe to our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. We've got plenty of content from MMA to boxing, and on our Fightful Pro Wrestling YouTube channel, where we got tons of recaps, news videos, podcasts on just about anything regarding pro wrestling. Sean Rossap over the weekend, our managing editor, did a podcast covering Ring of Honor 17th anniversary show. Lots of stuff. Great stuff over there, over here on Fightful.com. Whether you're a pro wrestling fan, MMA, or boxing fan, there is something for any kind, for every kind of combat sports fan. So leave us a thumbs up here. Subscribe to our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Go to Fightful.com for all the latest news on all those three sports: pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing. But we're here to talk about Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence Jr. And this was Errol Spence Jr.'s night. This was his crowning achievement. We all thought that this could be a potentially, even fight. Some people even saying that Mikey Garcia was going to win this fight. I personally thought that Errol Spence Jr. was going to win a close decision. I thought this fight was going to be a lot more even on paper, but what it boiled down to was that Mikey Garcia, for as great as he is, for the incredible resume that he has, really just cannot overcome the glaring physical disadvantages that he was facing when he was going up 2 weight classes to fight Errol Spence Jr. We all knew from the very beginning that Mikey Garcia was going to come into the fight, with a big disadvantage regarding the size between the two fighters. Listen, you look at the weigh-ins, you look at the face-off, you look at anything, and you clearly see Errol Spence is so much bigger, so much fast. Well, not faster, but he is really, really fast, longer. In terms of physical traits, Errol Spence got Mikey's number on virtually every single angle. And the question was going to be, is Mikey a good enough boxer to beat Errol Spence Jr. in spite of all that was going against him? Unfortunately, not the case. Errol Spence Jr., first couple of rounds, both guys were kind of taking in a feeling out process. No one really kind of did a whole lot to sort of, beat the other guy around. The first couple of rounds, you can maybe give it to one guy or the other. But even then, Mike Garcia was doing nothing. He was cautious throughout the entire fight, did not really do anything to sort of convince anyone that he belonged on that stage against Errol Spence Jr. There was maybe a moment in the second round, right around the 2-minute mark, 2 minutes into the second round, I should say, that Mikey was kind of caught some fire. Didn't really hurt Errol Spence Jr., but was splitting Errol Spence's guard with short range combinations. But the question was not going to be whether or not he can do it. We all know that Mikey is a good enough boxer to do that kind of stuff. But let's face it, at the end of the day, the question was going to be, can he do it throughout 12 rounds? Because we all know Mikey wasn't going to knock out Errol Spence Jr. Mikey's a really strong puncher, but not that strong to sort of take out someone like Errol Spence Jr. And that was really the main focus, is Errol Spence Jr.'s physical gifts enough to carry him to a win over Mikey Garcia, an extremely talented boxer, a guy who, if you're growing up and you're trying to imitate one boxer today, Mikey Garcia would be at the top of the list. He does everything so fundamentally sound. There's virtually no weakness in his game. That is, of course, maybe his hubris, his desire to seek out bigger challenges. And in this case, he sought out a challenge that was way too big, way too over his head. And I give Mikey Garcia a lot of credit for taking this fight. Well, he called out Errol Spence Jr., so not like he was offered the fight and took it. He was the one that was actively calling out Errol Spence Jr. ever since he beat Robert Easter Jr. to unify the WBC and IBF lightweight titles last July in Los Angeles. And let's be honest with you, Errol Spence Jr., he pretty much had his way with Mikey throughout all 12 rounds. The right hand was attacking Mikey for every single minute of the fight. He outlanded him, I believe, 5-1 throughout the whole fight, which is maybe the most amazing stat out there. Not the fact that Errol Spence Jr. landed almost 350 punches on Mikey, but it was the fact that Mikey only landed 75 punches, which is horrible. It might be a career low for a fight that went that long or anywhere near that long for Mikey. So it was very surprising. Errol just bruised and battered Mikey's face throughout the entire fight, just dominated him. There really wasn't much to sort of break down other than Errol Spence Jr. is an absolute beast. He is undoubtedly one of the best welterweights in the world, arguably the best welterweight. You can make some argument with Keith Thurman or Sean Porter or Terence Crawford, but really, if you ask just about anyone, the conversation is Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. And I think that's the fight that maybe the best welterweight fight that you could possibly make out there, but it will not happen, mainly because Errol Spence Jr. is with PBC and Terence Crawford with ESPN, and it does not look like those two will ever work towards an event quite like that. One can only dream, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, and I think that's really, really unfortunate, and I think the sport deserves a great fight like that. But here and there, I mean, what's next for Errol Spence Jr.? Well, he called out Manny Pacquiao to a potential unification fight. Well, and I say the term unification somewhat loosely because Manny Pacquiao does hold a WBA world welterweight title, but it's not the welterweight title. Keith Thurman holds that big belt in the 147-pound division for the WBA. Nonetheless, that is maybe the most attractive fight in terms of getting, mainstream attention and getting the casuals and non-boxing folk to tune into this fight. Everybody knows who Manny Pacquiao is. I think it's obvious that he is a Hall of Famer. And aside from De La Hoya and Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao was the biggest star in boxing throughout the 2000s and in the 2010s as well. And to be honest with you, I would like to see that fight. Manny Pacquiao has not looked this good in consecutive fights in quite some time. He looked really good against Lucas Matisse in the summer 2017. Well, actually, no, last summer, my mistake. Last summer, he looked really good against Lucas Matisse, and back in January, he looked really good against Adrian Broner, even though Broner didn't really do much against Manny Pacquiao. Nonetheless, that's a really good fight. Errol Spence Jr. is, his top priority is Manny Pacquiao. Neither of those two guys have mandatory challengers at this moment. So there really is nothing preventing this fight from being made. If that fight was going to be made, it would definitely be on pay-per-view. You get I guess maybe a solid buy rate for that one. Maybe 400,000, could be 500,000, depending on how the buy rate for this pay-per-view it does between Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia. I don't know what the pay-per-view number is going to be. So I've heard estimates of maybe in the 300,000, which I guess would be par for the course. Unfortunately, I mean, well, not unfortunately, but Richard Schaefer, one of the lead promoters for this fight, said, and I really, that thing he kind of went a little bit over the line when he said that this fight could do 1 million pay-per-view buys, which is not gonna happen. It was a ludicrous statement to say. I don't know if Richard Schaefer was caught up in the emotion of this fight taking place at AT&T Stadium, Jerry World, being on pay-per-view. Fox is handling all the promotion around it. That the Fox promotion could help the buy rate significantly. Fox has invested a lot, not just in PBC, but in this fight in particular. They've done press conferences on Fox. They've done a lot of big promotions across social media, across television for this fight. And really, I do think that this fight is going to do a solid buy rate number. I kind of put it out on Twitter asking what their thoughts on what the buy rate is going to be, could be. What would be over or under 370? I put out 375,000 buys. I thought that'd be a decent starting off point, because Fox, again, is handling the promotion, and we really have never seen a pay-per-view with that kind of marketing machine, be in charge of that pay-per-view. For years, we've seen Showtime and HBO handle pretty much almost every single big pay-per-view in boxing here in the United States for years, but we have never seen Fox do anything like this. So that could bolster the buy rate, and I do think it'll be a solid buy rate. I think 375,000 could be it, although I wouldn't be surprised if it did lower than that, maybe 300,000, as low as 300,000. I think I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. But this pay-per-view, listen, it was a 5-fight pay-per-view card, originally 4, but they put in a swing bout at the last second because all the undercard fights were going by so quickly. And I'm telling, and if you're a boxing fan and you look at this card, it was hard to really get excited over spending $60, $70, $75, however the pay-per-view was for this card. Let's run it down really quickly. David Benavidez beats Julian Love, TKO in the second round. Not much to say there. David Benavidez has dominated Julian Love as expected. He's next man in line for the WBC super middleweight title that he never technically lost. He was stripped of the title because of a failed drug test for the central compound found in cocaine last year. Anthony Durrell ended up winning the vacant title last month, but there was a bit of a controversy at Andy Yildirim as asked the WBC for an immediate rematch. WBC is going to make a vote tomorrow, actually, regarding the status of the WBC super middleweight title. So we'll see what David Benavidez' future, although in my opinion, I think he should deserve another shot at the title. And I think that David Benavidez would beat Anthony Durrell for the WBC title. Lindolfo Delgado versus James Roach. Delgado, this was the swing bout that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, by the way. Lindolfo Delgado, really good prospect out there. Knocked out James Roach with a vicious left body hook at the end of the first round. If anybody knows me, I'm a sucker for that left hand to the body that just sends guys down no matter what. And I love this. I love Lindolfo Delgado. He's a solid prospect out there. It was really good of Fox to put this fight on pay-per-view at the last second, get people excited about Lindolfo Delgado. I really did. I did like that. He's got a bright future. Luis Neri beats Joe Arroyo TKO after 4 rounds. This was the biggest one-sided beatdown of this entire card. Yes, even more so than Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. Neri, the former WBC bantamweight champion who failed the drug test in 2017 after a title defense against Shinsuke Yamanaka, or at least after beating Shinsuke Yamanaka for the title. Then keeps the title, miraculously keeps the title even after failing a drug test, has a rematch with Shinsuke Yamanaka, then goes massively overweight for the rematch. Makes a complete, utter fool of himself, gets stripped of the title, he gets banned for life from ever competing professionally in Japan. And a lot of fans have kind of soured on him, not because of his skills, because skills-wise, this guy is arguably the best bantamweight in the world, but because of his reputation for the failed drug test, for missing weight, there's a lot of lost faith in him, but Neri kind of recouped some of that hope in Neri being the best bantamweight in the world with a dominant performance against Joe Arroyo. He knocked Arroyo down 4 times in the fight. I believe once in the second and third round and twice in the 4th round. And at the end, Arroyo's corner said, "You're done. You're not gonna beat Luis Neri. We're not gonna send you out to get slaughtered by Luis Neri." So Neri, I mean, he could potentially get a shot at the WBC bantamweight title down the line, but we're not, and I think Neri will have a little trouble in winning back the WBC bantamweight title. Opening fight, Chris Arreola beats Jean-Pierre Augustin. Another one-sided fight. This has been the theme of the entire night. One-sided beatdowns. Arreola, former title challenger, it's kind of making a final run at a world heavyweight title, and he looked good against Jean-Pierre Augustin. But let's be honest, this is not a name guy or someone that the fans will easily recognize. I think it's a nice sort of comeback win for Chris Arreola. It's his second fight since 2016 when he lost to Deontay Wilder. This is his last run at a heavyweight title. I don't know if he's ever going to get that shot because of how busy Deontay Wilder's future could be, as well as the rest of the heavyweight champs, them being Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, the lineal heavyweight champion, if you consider his lineal title, a legitimate world title, that is. FS1 prelims, really quickly. Charles Martin beats Gregory Corbin by disqualification because Gregory Corbin could not stop, and I quote the great Sean Ross Sapp doing this, right in the penis, 4 low blows, or at least 4 registered low blows on Charles Martin. This fight, I do not recommend watching this fight at all. Don't watch this fight. This was one of the worst fights I've seen all year long. If you're trying to get yourself to not like boxing anymore, go right ahead and watch this fight, although I don't know why you want to watch this fight or why you want to stop watching boxing. This fight was terrible. It was awful. Charles Martin, he dominated Gregory Corbin. Corbin was, he did not belong out there. As much flack I give Charles Martin, and I do think he's kind of in the conversation of being in that Mount Rushmore for worst world heavyweight champion throughout boxing history. This was a bad fight. This was a dud. I just don't watch this fight at all. I really did get soured on this fight. It was just not good at all. But you know what was good? Kosei Tanaka versus Ryoichi Taguchi, which took place 3 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. WBO flyweight title. Good gracious. This was fantastic. One of the best fights of this weekend, arguably best fight of this whole weekend. Really, really outstanding fight. Tanaka was just a little too good, too fast, too accurate for Taguchi. Retains the WBO flyweight title with a dominant win. But this was a really, really good fight. I'd recommend within this week, because I don't know if this fight's going to be legally available after this week. Go to asianboxing.info, go to CBC, I think it was CBC Global his YouTube channel to watch this fight. Watch this undercard. Really, really outstanding stuff. Kosei Tanaka, for those of you that remember, or longtime readers of the Fightful Boxing newsletter, or just know me personally, you know how much I love Kosei Tanaka, and you know how high I hold his fight against Sho Kimura last September, a fight that I did say on the air, and I still stand by, as one of the greatest flyweight world title fights in history, one of the greatest all-Japanese world title fights in history. Kosei Tanaka follows it up with another outstanding fight, more one-sided than the Sho Kimura fight, but still outstanding nonetheless. I do recommend people watch this fight. Tanaka is a special talent, 3-belt champion across 3 weight classes. And the amazing thing is he's only 23 years old. So there is his ceiling is still, we still have not seen what his max potential is. That's the amazing part about Kosei Tanaka, is that there's still a lot for him to grow. He's still physically growing. I mean, I know a lot of people look at me and they say to me, I mean, you're still growing. You're only 23 years old. Well, Kosei Tanaka is still growing. He's a couple of months younger than me. So Tanaka he enters the conversation as a top 10 pound for pound boxer with these last 2 fights against Sho Kimura and Ryoichi Taguchi. Those are 2 extremely solid wins. It's amazing what he's been able to do at such a young age. And Tanaka has done really well. It's obvious that to anyone watching him that he's a star, and he needs to be exposed out here in the West a lot more, because I think he provides the kind of style that people out here in the West would just eat up. He's an all-action fighter. He loves creating wars for fans to watch. The Taguchi fight was not exactly a war per se, but he did force Taguchi with his sheer power and sheer speed and accuracy. He forced Taguchi to kind of have to retaliate and fight back, which is not really something that we've known Ryoichi Taguchi to do. He's a more cerebral fighter. He's a very tough fighter, but he's not exactly the boxer puncher that Kosei Tanaka is. And I do think that Kosei Tanaka has really turned himself into a major star out west. And again, I have to give a lot of credit to the people at AsianBoxing.info. Follow them at Asian Boxing on Twitter, because they are phenomenal. The people there do an outstanding job. They were the ones responsible for giving fans around the world the opportunity to watch Sho Kimura versus Kosei Tanaka for free, legal, live, and they were the people responsible for Kosei Tanaka versus Ryoichi Taguchi, free, legal, global, live. You know, I really cannot, give enough credit to those people. They're outstanding people, and I do wish them the best, because if people tune into those fights, then that gives incentives to the broadcasters over there in Japan to make those big fights available for us out in the West. Because let's be honest, the Zone, ESPN Plus, they're not going to give all of those big fights to us. There was another big fight in Japan, Vic Saludar defending a WBO minimum weight title. We didn't get a chance to see that live because, no one picked it up. And I thought that was a real shame. But listen, I think Kosei Tanaka has turned himself to a fantastic boxer at only 23 years old. He's turned 24 later in the summer. Very young, but his potential, we have yet to see that, which is amazing considering he's won 3 world title in 3 different weight classes, and he's still as young as he is. That's really is incredible. One as in the live chat said, will Charlo versus Canelo ever happen? I'm assuming you're referring to Jermall Charlo. I don't know. I don't think so, unless Jermall Charlo makes the jump to the Zone, and I don't know if he will. There's a lot of moving parts. I think PBC is trying their hardest to not lose any big names out there to the Zone and ESPN. But the problem here is that what is there for Jermall Charlo at 160? There really is nothing left for him. All the big middleweights are on the Zone. So if Charlo wants a shot at a title or a major fight against any of the big middleweights, he's going to have to go to the Zone. But Will he? I don't know. That really does remain to be seen. Now, moving on to the zone card, a very, very good the zone card in Philly this past weekend. On Friday, Tevin Farmer beats Jono Carroll to retain the IBF Super Featherweight title. Very, very good slugfest between the two. A lot of body work in this fight. Tevin Farmer, a very skillful, technical fighter, but this was the right kind of opponent to sort of force him to have to throw a lot. Jono Carroll, a lot of credit to him. He did a lot of good work trying to work the body, and he threw everything but the kitchen sink at Tevin Farmer. But the problem here, the fight was that Tevin Farmer was defending well, counterpunching well, landing the left hook to the side of Jono Carroll's head pretty darn accurately throughout the fight. And Jono Carroll was throwing a lot, but it wasn't landing a lot. Tevin Farmer was very well off defensively. He was keeping Jono Carroll from hurting him. There really wasn't a lot of big moments in this fight, but I do think Tevin Farmer did an outstanding job surviving such an offensive onslaught by Jono Carroll. The big story from that fight was, of course, the non-call out for Tevin Farmer versus Gervonta Davis. And at this point, I don't think, we're not getting that fight anytime soon unless Tevin Farmer maybe leaves the zone and heads on over to PBC. I think that's really the only way we're going to get that fight. Tevin Farmer, he appears to be done with this whole Gervonta Davis talk. I mean, the zone, credit to the zone for trying to put the pressure on Mayweather Promotions and Gervonta Davis and PBC for not letting these two fight. But Tevin Farmer was like, man, I don't care about that fight. I don't care at all about Gervonta Davis anymore. I mean, man, I want to get paid. I want this. There was this talks of Eddie Hearn offering Gervonta Davis $5 million, but that didn't. But I want that fight. I want that money. I want that Gervonta Davis money. And I think Tevin Farmer, I mean, Eddie Hearn has done well on his promise to keep Tevin Farmer busy with title defenses every few months or so. But I think Tevin Farmer is looking for greener pastures, and I do mean greener in dollar figures. And I don't know if Farmer's happy or unhappy with what he's getting paid by DAZN and Matchroom Boxing, but I think he's just frustrated with the fact that Eddie Hearn just seems to be so infatuated with offering Gervonta Davis so much money and not really talking about offering that kind of money to his own fighter in Tevin Farmer, which I think maybe rubbed off him the wrong way a little bit throughout fight week. Nonetheless, Tevin Farmer, has shown that he can be a very entertaining fighter. Maybe not necessarily to most folk, but I think it's he can be an entertaining fighter nonetheless. I've certainly enjoyed his last few fights. I do like it when I do enjoy technical boxing, which is not really everyone's cup of tea, but this fight had a little bit of everything: technical fighting, good body work, slugfest, great defense. I recommend watching this fight. I do think that this was a solid fight. Katie Taylor, she fought Rose Volante for the unified WBA, WBO, and IBF lightweight champions. She dominated. Rose Volante stops her very late in the fight, and quite frankly, this was another fight where on paper some people may look at this fight and thought this could be a 50-50 shot. Katie Taylor could be in some trouble, and once again, Katie Taylor proves that she is just as sensational talent, makes easy work of Rose Volante, becomes a 3-belt champion at 135 pounds. And quite frankly, and the fight to make right now is Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. That's the super fight in women's boxing, aside from Clarissa Shields versus Christina Hammer that's taking place next month in Atlantic City. I'm excited for that fight. If that were to happen, I'm talking about Hammer and Shields and a potential Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano fight. But if that fight doesn't happen next, the fight for Katie Taylor to make would be Delphine Persoon, who is the WBC lightweight champion, and sort of crown an undisputed women's lightweight champion, which I believe has never happened before. Don't quote me on that, but I don't believe that's ever happened before. And Katie Taylor I think if there is someone in boxing right now that you point to one woman and say she should be the face of the sport, it's hard to not put Katie Taylor at the top or near the top of the list. You could say maybe Cecilia Brækhus, the undisputed women's welterweight champion, Amanda Serrano, Clarissa Shields. There's really, in that top 4 category, Katie Taylor has everything. She turns one-sided beatdowns and dominant performances into exciting stuff to watch out for. And I do like that in a fighter when they can not only dominate, but do so in a way where it's entertaining and people eat it up. And the people in Philadelphia were excited for Katie Taylor. And I do think that was a solid performance by Katie Taylor. Another tremendous win for Katie Taylor. And I do recommend people watching. If you're trying to get into women's boxing, Katie Taylor's fights are a great way to get started because she makes fights very fun, even though she dominates most of them. The drama is not in whether or not she can win, is how dominant she's going to win, how entertaining it's going to be, what incredible stuff we're going to see. She's great. I do think Katie Taylor is one of the best women's boxers in the world. Pound for pound, she's in my top 4. Maybe she's number 4 or number 3, but she's in there in my top 4 right now. She is that damn good. And, we got, let's see, the most surprising fight of that DAZN card, Maciej Shulevsky against Gabriel Rosado. Man, listen, those first 7 rounds, all of us thought Maciej Shulevsky got to cruise to an easy victory. Just mosey on over to a title shot against Demetrius Andrade for the WBO middleweight title. Gabriel Rosado says, nope, you ain't getting that title shot easy, and just completely stuns the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia with just this outstanding burst in the 9th round, dropped Shulevsky twice, almost stops him, and it created almost completed one of the most incredible comebacks we have seen in recent memory. Rosado was, getting thoroughly beaten. He catches fire right at the end of the 9th round, drops Shulevsky twice. Shulevsky at the end of the 9th round, he was still hurt. He had no idea where he was going. If that 9th round had been maybe 10, 15 seconds longer, Rosado would have stopped Maciej Shulevsky, and he would have been on his way to potential title shot against Demetrius Andrade. That was a fun fight. I loved it. The ending was very dramatic. It was incredible. Props to Gabriel Rosado and Maciej Shulevsky for giving us a very entertaining fight. And I do appreciate a good slugfest with a dramatic twist towards the end. I do very much enjoy it. Overall, this DAZN card, in my opinion, was the best card out of the 4 cards that we have discussed or are going to discuss tonight. I loved it. The main card was excellent. Not a bad fight on the DAZN card, which you can't say about any of the other cards, other fights on these other cards, whether it be on the Asian boxing stream or the PBC on Fox pay-per-view. Well, on the PBC on Fox pay-per-view, there was not even a good fight on that card. So, I mean, let alone 3 great fights. There was not even one good fight. And lastly, the one card that we haven't discussed yet, the one that just concluded about 2 hours ago, or a little less than 2 hours ago, as of this live recording, ESPN Plus, Michael Conlan, St. Paddy's Day, the tradition that is the Madison Square Garden show promoted by Top Rank, where you put Michael Conlan in this big attraction fight. This was the first time that Conlan wins, but it wasn't by stoppage or by knockout. Michael Conlan beats Ruben Garcia Hernandez by a wide unanimous decision, 190 across all 3 scorecards. Conlan was the last fight on the ESPN Plus stream, even though technically the fight before that was being labeled as the main event, which is kind of a little bit weird because I do think the main event should always be the last fight, not the fight before it. So it kind of makes it's a very weird thing that you're putting out there. But nonetheless, Michael Conlan looks good. He was working the body a lot throughout at various points in the fight, but he didn't really do anything to sort of let his hands go. It was, touch and go. He looked good, but it wasn't the type of performance where it tells you that this is a star or the next big thing in the welterweight and the featherweight division. And really, this was the type of crowd. Madison Square Garden on St. Patrick's Day, the crowd was electric. They were ready for seeing something special. Finn Balor, WWE superstar, out there waving the Irish flag, walking Michael Conlan into the ring. And then Conlan just does not deliver on the goods. He gives us, again, a good performance. But on this night, on that environment, on that crowd, on that venue, with the opportunity that was given, a good performance is not what we needed. We needed great. We needed something spectacular, something special. Conlan didn't do that. I mean, he dominated. There was no doubt about it, but nothing that that really wowed anyone that was trying to talk themselves in thinking this is a potential world champion. Now, I do think that Michael Conlan could be a world champion someday, and he's being groomed the right way by Top Rank, and I do like what they're doing with Michael Conlan. They're building him up the right way, in my opinion. But at this point, we need to see something special with Michael Conlan. He's right now he's a borderline prospect / contender. He's 27. He's had a tremendous amateur background. At this point, we should not call him a prospect, but he's still labeled as that. And I don't know if that's and I don't think that's a good thing. He should right now be knocking the Ruben Garcia Hernandez's of the world. And he just isn't. But overall, I mean, they're grooming him for a fight against Vladimir Nikitin, with the Russian that controversially defeated Michael Conlan in the 2016 Olympics. We all know the story. Michael Conlan was not happy with the judges, flips the double bird. It was one of the most lasting images of the Olympics of that year, not just in boxing, but across the entire Olympic Games. And he's being groomed by Top Rank to become this next big Irish sensation. And there is proof that he is getting there. The crowd was there for Michael Conlan. And it shows that we are getting a solid prospect turning into a contender on Michael Conlan, but we need to see a little bit more than that. I don't know if Michael Conlan on St. Patrick's Day 2020 is ready for a world title shot. But if he is by then, if he does great things from here on out, until then, MSG on St. Patrick's Day 2020, that's when you pull the trigger on Michael Conlan and give him the world title shot. Whether or not, and really that's going to be the test, whether or not he is, this is the type of fighter that Top Rank has been telling us for years. And I do think Michael Conlan, I don't know if he's ready for guys like Oscar Valdez and Carl Frampton. Right now, he is not, but who is to say in 6-8 months he doesn't progress tremendously, and he surprises us. So overall, I think Michael Conlan is a solid fighter, but he didn't really wow us on this night. Undercard, on this main card, Luis Collazo beat Samuel Vargas. Split decision. Luis Collazo looks good. He's 30, nearing 40. He's in his late 30s. Turns back the clock. This is a really solid performance. I don't know if a split decision was warranted. I think Luis Collazo won. I guess you can maybe make some argument that Vargas won the fight, but not really. Collazo, kind of in the fringe contender status for the WBA welterweight title, but I don't know if at this stage of the game he will get an opportunity to fight for the title that's currently being held by Keith Thurman or Manny Pacquiao. I just don't. But maybe he could challenge for Terrence Crawford's WBO welterweight title. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop Crawford from getting that at the end of the year if he keeps his current win streak going. Maybe one last hurrah for Luis Collazo before he hangs it up. So that looked good. Not a bad fight, to be honest with you. Lastly, Oscar Mojica against Patty Barnes. Mojica upsets Patty Barnes, wins by split decision. He doesn't, he essentially breaks Paddy Barnes' nose, and from the first round, he was bleeding a lot from the nose. Not a great outing by Paddy Barnes. Kind of was a little bit reluctant. He's still hurting from the body shots that he got against Christopher Rosales last year when he challenged for the title, and Oscar Mojica just I want to not say dominated, but he landed the body shots with relative ease. I think Mojica won that fight. I think that was the right call. Paddy Barnes, contemplating retirement, and I don't know. I mean, listen, if he thinks that he should hang up his gloves, he should hang up his gloves. Not much to show for a pro career. It's only had 7 fights so far, and his lone world title challenge ended up in complete failure. He was knocked out by Christopher Rosales. So, I mean, listen, if this is it, I mean, I don't think this is a career that people will look back with favor 20 years from now. So, if this is it for Paddy Barnes, then happy retirement. But I don't know if this is it for Paddy Barnes, but this fight was at bantamweight. I don't know why this was a bantamweight fight. He's way too small for that weight class, and hopefully that hopefully this fight is not an indication that Paddy Barnes this is it for him, because again, this was the wrong weight class to put Paddy Barnes in his first fight since losing out on the WBC flyweight world title. I think that wraps it up for this edition of the Fightful Boxing Podcast. This went a lot longer than I thought it would be. 40 minutes. Holy cow. This was not the mini cast that I thought this was going to be, but nonetheless, had a lot of fun talking, a lot of news out there in the boxing world, a lot of big results. Again, Errol Spence Jr. dominates Mikey Garcia, Kosei Tanaka, proving that he's one of the best kept secrets in boxing right now. Tevin Farmer, outstanding performance on the zone. Same with Katie Taylor, Michael Conlan, good, not great win on ESPN Plus. That about wraps it up for this edition of the Fightful Boxing Podcast. Head on over to Fightful.com for all the latest news regarding pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing. Subscribe to our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up on this video. Go to Fightful. If you want to support Fightful even more, you can head on over to Fightful Select or Patreon service, where it is a great way to support us. We're an independently run site, and we're put a lot of great stuff out there on Fightful Select, exclusive articles, early access, tons of podcasts, Q&As, early access on a lot of big news and stuff. Just a lot of great stuff over there on FightfulSelect.com. So if you can support us, we really do appreciate it, and we do thank you for all the great support that you have given us thus far. So with that being said, Carlos Toro of Fightful.com and FightfulBoxing.com, we're out, and we will see you on the next edition of the Fightful Boxing Podcast this Thursday, covering all the latest news and all the biggest news inside the world of boxing. Carlos Toro signing out.